We continue now at the top of Daf Mem Hey Amud Beis in Meseches Bava Basra. This is Bava Basra Daf 45b. On the previous Amud, the Gemara was dealing with the case in the Mishnah. The Mishnah said that an Uman is not able to make a chazak on an item because we assume that the reason why he has the item is just to work on the item. The fact that he has the item in his possession is no evidence, it's no proof that he's actually the owner. And Rabba says this is only true in a situation where we have witnesses, where we have Eidim that the Uman actually received the item. But in a situation where there are no witnesses that the Uman ever received the item, so then he has a migo, because then he could just claim that I never received the item at all. And since he could claim that I never got the item at all, so therefore he's also able to claim l'kucha hi biyadi, that he bought the item, that the item is his. Abaya said to Rabba, if that's the case, if you're willing to give the Uman a migo, so then even if there are Eidim that he received the item, he still should have a migo, because he has a migo that he could say that I returned it to you already. Since he could say I returned it to you already, so then he's believed when he says that I bought it. And the Gemara now continues that Rabba responds, do you think that hamafkid etzel chaveru be'edim, that if somebody deposits something by his friend and there are witnesses, eino tzarech lahachzer lo be'edim, he doesn't need to return it with witnesses? It's not true. It's not true. Lo sal kadaitach, don't think that is true. Ela hamafkid etzel chaveru be'edim, rather somebody who deposits something by his friend with witnesses, tzarech lahachzer lo be'edim, he needs to return that item with witnesses as well. Meaning the claim that the Uman is making that he returned it already would not be a good claim, because if he received it with witnesses, he has to have evidence, he has to have witnesses that he returned it, and that's why in a situation where he received the item with Eidim, he really has no alternate claim, and therefore he's not able to make a chazaka when he received it without Eidim. So then he could say, Lo hayu devar me'olam, I never received the item at all, and so therefore he's believed to say, L'kuchi biyadi, that he bought the item. And the Gemara continues, Eisvei Abaya, Abaya asks the following question to Rabba. It says in a Braisa, Ra avdo biyad uman, let's say he sees that his slave is in the hands of a craftsman. The idea over here is that the Uman is might be training the slave how to do something. Vitaliso biyad koves, or he has a talis in the hands of a koves, who's a launderer. Again, these are people who generally might take the items not as owners, but doing work. Omer lo, so he says to Mativo etzlecha, what is this doing by you? And the claim back is, Atan machartoli, you sold it to me, or Atan esatoli b'matana, you gave it to me as a gift. So lo amar klum, so he's not saying anything that's not a good claim, along the lines of our Mishnah, that since he is an uman, since he's a craftsman, the fact that he has the item is not evidence that it is his. Now if he says back, befanai amarta lo lemochro, in front of me you said to him to sell it, velitano lo, or to give it to him b'matana as a gift, devar of kayamin, then his words are accepted, that is a good claim. And the Gemara right away asks, because the Gemara doesn't understand this end of the Brisa, Ma'ishna Reishu, Ma'ishna Seifa, what's the difference between what's going on in the Reish of the Brisa and the Seif of the Brisa? And the Gemara answers that the Seif of the Brisa is talking about a very particular case. Amar Rabba says, Seifa biyotze mitachas yadeacher. The Seif is an entirely different case. The end of the Brisa is not that it's the Uman that has the item, it's just a third person, a different individual who has the item. V'kamar le'acher b'fanai amarta lo l'mochro v'litano b'matana, and this other person says that in front of me you said to him to sell it and to give it to me essentially as a gift, meaning to say the third person, this third party is claiming, you know why I have this item in my possession? The reason why I have this item in my possession is because you gave it to the Uman, and then you told the Uman in front of me, you told the Uman to give it to me, and so therefore he gave it to me as a gift, or again he sold it to me. And the idea is migo di boy amarle. Now he has a migo over here. This third person has a migo because he could have just said minach zavinte, that I bought it from you. He has possession of the item right now, and he could simply say, I bought the item from you, because he has a chazaka. So since he could have said that, ki amar nami, so when he also says, befanai amarta lo, in front of me, you said to him, to the Uman, lamochro, to sell it, devar of kayaman. So then he's believed, because he has a migo in this case, umehemen, and therefore he's believed in this case. And so the Gemara continues, Katani mios reisha. But what do we say here, nevertheless, in the beginning of this Bryce? In the beginning of the Bryce, it's essentially the same as the Mishnah, but there's one thing that's added. It says ra, it sees that he sees, meaning to say, in this case of the Bryce, we actually see the item in the possession of the Uman. The Mishnah's case, it didn't make it clear that we see the item in the possession of the Uman. Here you have a situation where we're actually seeing it in the possession of the Uman. And so now, hechidami, so what exactly is the case? Idiika edim, now if there are witnesses, if witnesses saw it actually being given over to the Uman, so lamali ra, so why do we even need to say that he sees the item in the possession of the Uman, Nesi Eidim V'Nishkol, just bring witnesses, and then he'll be able to take it. There's no need for saying that we see it in the hands of the Uman in that case, because according to Rabba, once there are Eidim who see, again, that's what Rabba said, once there are Eidim who see that it was given over, so then the Uman loses the case regardless, even if we don't know that he has the object. The halacha is that if you get it with Eidim, you have to return it with Eidim, and therefore the Uman would lose the case. And so Abaye continues, Elalav, rather is it not, isn't the Brisa talking, Deleka Eidim, where there are no witnesses, there are no witnesses that the Uman actually received the item, and we're saying V'chira, and the halacha seems to be that if we see the item there, Miyotafisle, so then in that situation, he is able to get it back from him, and that goes against what Rabbah said. And the Rashbam explains, V'chira oso biyad ha'uman, if we see the item in the hands of the craftsman, Miyotafisle balabayis umotziu miyada, the balabayis is able to take it away from the Uman. Alma hecha dera, you see that in a situation where we see the item, afilu lo masar be'edim, even if it wasn't given over with Edim, lo mehem and Uman, the Uman is not believed. V'kashal Rabbah, this is difficult to Rabbah, because Rabbah said, Tehecha de masar shalo be'edim, that in a situation where it was given over without any witnesses, lo shna ra, doesn't matter if we see the item in his possession, lo shna lo ra, doesn't matter if we don't see it in his possession, mehem and Uman, the Uman is always believed. And we will take a look as well at the Rashbam here in the previous summon. This is the Rashbam on Mem Hey Amud Aleph. Says again, Avol Moser Lo Shalo Be'edim. This is Rabbah's opinion. If it was given over to the Uman without witnesses, the Rashbam says, Lomi Boy Hecha De'inanu Roin Hatalis Biyad. We don't even need to say in a situation where right now we don't see the talis in his possession. Since he could say he has a migo, he could say, yeah, you gave it to me, but I returned it to you. And he'd be believed. Because if it wasn't given with Edim, he doesn't need to return it with Eidim. Or he could say it never happened, you never gave it to me. And he'd be believed b'shvuas heses with a shvuas heses. So therefore, if he says that it is in my possession, but I bought it, you sold it to me, he'll have a chazaka, he'll be believed through the migo. The Rashbam says, but not only in a situation where we don't see it in his possession, even if right now witnesses see the talis in the hand of the Uman, or he's holding it right in front of us, he still has this claim. He could say that it never happened, meaning he could say, Shalom Asartoli, you never gave it to me, maybe Aval Acher Masruli, maybe someone else gave it to me, Shemachartolo, that you sold it to him, Vahu Machroli, and he sold it to me. So there is still that kind of a claim of Lo Hayu Dvarim Me'olam in any type of situation where there were no witnesses that saw the person, this person who's protesting, give it over to the Uman. So therefore, when he says you gave it to me and you sold it to me, Neman behind Migo, he is believed with this Migo. And the Rashbam continues, the Svira Leila Rabbah, because Rabbah holds Hashta Dehecha to Lo Masar Lo Be'edim, that in a situation where it's not given over with Edim, Loshna Ra Hatalis Biyado Achshav Loshna Lo Ra. It doesn't matter if we see the talis now in his hand, doesn't matter if we don't. Yesh Chazaka, he can make a Chazaka. To Lo Medami Leila Din Shal Dvarim Hasuyin Lahashar Lo Lahaskir, because Rabbah does not compare this to items which generally are lent out or rented out. Items which are generally lent out or rented out, you can't make a Chazaka either, because we just assume that it was lent to this person. We say over there that if the person claims I bought it, he's not believed, as long as the ma'ar has witnesses that it did belong to him. Even though you don't have witnesses that see it given over, that saw that it was lent or rented, because by those items, people lend it out to all of his neighbors, umasker rents it out to his neighbors. But here, there's a claim that the craftsman could say, I didn't usually fix your begadim. And so therefore, the Rashbam says, anytime it is not given over with Eidim, again, the Uman has a chazaka. And the Rashbam says this is clear later on. The Gemara we just read on the next Amud, according to Rabbah, it doesn't matter if we see it in his possession, we don't. The Uman is going to have a chazaka, as long as it was not given over with Eidim. And so again, therefore, asking a question on Rabbah from this Brisa, because the Brisa seems to be saying over here that it was given over, the item was given over to the Uman without Eidim, and as long as the original owner who's protesting, as long as we see that the item is right now in the Uman's possession, apparently the owner is able to get it back, and the Uman does not have a chazaka. That goes against Rabbah. Rabbah said that anytime there are no witnesses that see it given to the Uman, we say that the Uman does have a chazaka. And the Gemara answers, Lo, no, liolam di'iko Eidim. Really the case over here is there are Eidim Edom that saw that it was given over to the Uman. Now, if there are Edom that see that it was given over to the Uman, why do we have to see it in his possession right now? We should say that the halacha is, since Edom saw it given to the Uman, it has to be returned with Edom, and so therefore he has no migo, and he should lose even if we don't see it in his possession. And so Rabba changes his mind. V'hu. Rabba says that you only can get it back if we see it in his possession right now. Otherwise, he does have a migo. He can claim that he already returned it. And so the Gemara asks on that, but you, Rabba, you're the one that just said that if you deposit something, if a person deposits something by his friend with witnesses, it has to be returned, it has to be paid back with witnesses, and so therefore there should be a migo. And the Gemara says, Amarle said back to him, Hadri bi, I've retracted from that, I changed my mind on that issue, and so therefore even in a situation where there are Edom that saw it given to the Uman, still the Uman will have a migo unless we actually see it in the possession of the Uman right now. And the Gemara continues, Mesiv Rava l'siyuei l'Rabba. Rava asked the following question as a support for Rabba. Again, Rabba is the one that is saying that in a situation where it's given to the Uman without witnesses, so then we say automatically the Uman does win the case. He's able to make a chazaka. The Bryce over here says, Hanosin taliso l'Uman, if a person gives his talis to a craftsman, Uman omer shtayim katzatztali. The Uman says that you said you were going to pay me 2. V'halo omer lo katzatzti l'chalachas. But the owner of the talis, he says, no, I was only going to pay you 1. So the halach is as follows: Kolzman sha'talis biyad uman. As long as the talis is still in the possession of the uman, so then al balabayis l'havi rai. The balabayis has to bring evidence to his side. Otherwise, he has to pay 2. Nosnalo. Now, if the uman already gave the talis back to the balabayis, so the balabayis has possession of the talis. So bismano. So if it's still in the time that the wages are due, so nishba v'noto. The halach is like any worker; he takes an oath and he's able to collect the 2. But avar zmano. But if it's past the time already, where there's a presumption that the person was paid, so then hamotzi mechaver olav araya. Then the Brisa says if he wants to get 2 from the balabayis, he has to bring witnesses. Otherwise, the balabayis only has to pay 1. And the Gemara says, hey chidami, what exactly is the case in this brisa? Idiika edim. If the case over here is that when the talis was given to the uman, there were witnesses to that, so lichzi edim, maika amri. So the edim can just see what exactly was said. Did he say he was going to pay 1, or did he say he was going to pay 2? And we'll take a look at the Rashbam over here. Mesiv Rava li Abaya. Rava asked a question to Abaya from the following brisa l'siyuei l'Rabba, and it's a support for Rabba near Beinai. The Rashbam says it appears to me the beloshan hazeh amar Rava bebeis hamedrash. This was the language Rava used when he brought this brisa in the base medrash. He said, Tanya kavase de Rabba utiyuvta de Abaya. He said there's a brisa like Rabba that's a refutation for Abaya. And again, we said that if the uman still has possession, al balabayis lo havi raya edim, then the balabayis needs to bring edim. He needs to bring evidence that he was only going to pay 1. Mishum de uman mehem, and there the uman is believed migo dematzi lememar lakuachu biyadi, because he has a migo. He could say, I bought the whole talis from you. So yachol lito not kadei damav, he's able to claim any amount of wages up until the value of the talis. And that's like we said earlier. The Rashbam says, there was a case earlier where we said that. But if he already gave the talis back, so he doesn't have possession, so bismano nishba v'notel. If it's still the time when the wages are due, so then he could take an oath and collect. Kolomar, meaning to say, in bismano tovo, if he's asking for the wages before the deadline already, so then bedin and nishba v'notel. Then there's a halacha that the worker takes a shvu in order to collect. This is one of the few cases where it's the person collecting who takes the shvua, as opposed to a person taking a shvua to get out of payment. Sacher bizmano nishba v'notel. A sacher at the proper time when he's supposed to get paid, he takes the oath to collect. The time of a shvuas. The reason is given in shvuas mishon the balabais tard bepoalov hemnu l'sacher, because the balabais is so busy with all of his workers, he might not really remember everything. So therefore, instead we have the sacher, we have the worker actually take the shvua. But avar zmano. But if the deadline passed, meaning achar shashaka hachama, the sun already set, so then hamotzi mechavero sacher. Now the sacher is the motzi. He has to bring evidence that he's owed the 2. And so the Gemara then said, if the case is there are witnesses that saw that it was given to the uman in front of them, it makes sense to say that in front of them they saw the amount of the wages. So let the dayanim, let the judges just ask the witnesses what exactly was said, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Mem Vav Amud Aleph.